How can you find the distance between 2 points on a coordinate plane? Think about this question during the lesson. Tammy drew a map of her neighborhood. How far is it from Lee's house to the school? Are Lee's house and the school on the same horizontal or vertical grid line? Lee's house and the school are on the same vertical grid line. Find the coordinates of Lee's house and the school. How do you find the ordered pairs for Lee's house and the school? For each location, start at the origin and move along the x-axis and then along the y-axis. Then record the coordinates as an ordered pair. What are the coordinates for Lee's house?
Select your answer.
The coordinates for Lee's house are -4, -3. The coordinates for the school are -4, 2. What do you notice about the x-coordinates of Lee's house and the school? The x-coordinates are the same. Because the x-coordinates are the same, you can use the y-coordinates to find the distance between Lee's house and the school.
You can use what you know about absolute value to find distances.
The absolute values of the y-coordinates tell you the distance between each point and the x-axis. This distance is the absolute value of 2, or 2. This distance is the absolute value of -3, or 3. The distance from Lee's house to school is the absolute value of 2 plus the absolute value of -3 equals 2 plus 3 equals 5 miles. Why do you add the distances between each point and the x-axis to find the total distance from Lee's house to the school? You add the distances between each point and the x-axis because the two distances combined result in the total distance between Lee's house and the school. You should always use the absolute values of coordinates when calculating distances. The distance from one point to another point is always positive. Now you know how to find the distance between 2 points on a coordinate plane.
What is the distance from the school to the playground? Explain how you used absolute values to find the distance.
We have the school at, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, so 4 and 2. So that's a -4 and a +2 for the school. Then you have playground. The playground is also on -4 and +5. Okay, so now we need to use the absolute values to find the distance between the schools. So we're going to only look at the y-axis because they're both on the same line of the -4. We're looking at the distance going up. So we look at 2 and then we look at 5 and we would subtract the 2. So 5 minus the 2 will give us 3. So they are, in this case, 3 units apart from each other. And that is how you would use the absolute value.
The Coulter family starts at their home and stops at a rest stop to eat lunch. How much farther do they need to drive to get to the water park? Use coordinates to find the distance.
So the y-coordinates are the same for these two. So we're going to use the absolute value for the x-coordinates. So we look at negative 85 and 5/10 and negative 25 and 75 hundredths. The absolute value would just be the positive version of each, subtract them, and then that gives you the remaining distance. So that would be 59 and 75 hundredths. The distance of the return trip is, so now they're coming from the water park all the way back home. So we know the distance from the water park to the rest stop was, what was it? I forgot, but 85 and 5/10 we're going to add to the 65 and 5/10 because now we're adding up the distance all the way along. So the absolute values of both of those would be 85 and 5/10 and plus 65 and 5/10. And they got that right from here, 85 and the 65. That's where those two numbers came from. Once you add them up, you get 151. So that's the return trip all the way back home.
Point B is on the x-axis and has the same x-coordinate as point A. Point C has an x-coordinate of -2 and a y-coordinate of n. The distance from point A to point C is equal to the distance from point A to point B. What is the value of n? The distance between points A and B can't be determined without knowing the value of n, which is the y-coordinate of point A. The distance between points A and C can be found. The points have the same y-coordinate and are in different quadrants. You can add the absolute values of the x-coordinates to find the horizontal distance. The absolute value of -2 is 2. The absolute value of 5 is 5. 2 plus 5 equals 7. So the distance from point A to point C is 7 units. This means that the distance from point A to point B is also 7 units. The ordered pair, 5, 0, describes the location of point B. The difference of the y-coordinates of point A and B is 7. So, n is equal to 7.
Point D is in quadrant 4 and is the same distance from point B as point A. What are the coordinates of point D?
So we have to figure out, based on the locations of point A and B, what are the coordinates of point D. Based on the example, n was equal to 7. So we know the distance between A and B is 7, and it says that the D is in quadrant 4. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 is down here. And so it says it is the same distance from point B as point A. So if I know that from here to here, y is 7, I know from here to D should also be 7. So if this coordinate here is 5 and 0 because it's on the line, if I go down, it should be positive 5 and n, or the distance to D should be -7 because quadrant 4 has a negative y-axis, so it would be positive 5, -7.
An archaeologist used a coordinate plane to map a dig site. She marked the corners of a building with flags as shown. Part A. How much rope does the archaeologist need to go around the building?
Step 1, you find the length of each side of the rectangle. So A, B, C, D. Find the length of each side. A to B is 6. B to C is 5. C to D is 6. And then D to A is also 5. Step 2, add the side lengths together and you get the perimeter of 22 meters of rope. What is the area of the building in square meters? Use the measurements from part A. The building is 6 meters wide, 5 meters tall. So 6 times 5 is 30. That gives us the area. The food tent is located at a point that makes a rectangle with points C and D. And the working tent. What are the coordinates of the food tent? So here's the working tent, DC. So if it makes a rectangle, the point would have to be here, directly across from the working tent and C. So that would be a positive 2 and 1, 2, 3, negative 3. Let's see. So we have, negative 2. Yeah, negative 2. So it is, the working tent is 3 units down from D. To make a rectangle, the food tent should also be 3 units down from C. The coordinates of the food tent are 2 and negative 2. How much rope is, okay, let's read this.
The archaeologist later decides to extend the roped-off area so that the new perimeter goes from A to B to the food tent to the working tent and then back to A. How much rope is needed now? What is the area of the roped-off area?